Welcome in once again to the Sports Room. I'm your host, your co-host, Riley Evans, along with Derek Crystal, Darius Matthews. Welcome in to the show that actually talks about, the sports show that actually talks about sports. Quite a weekend that we had. College football playoff rankings. Playoffs are set. The New Year's Six Bowls are set. We're going to dive into that first. After that, we're going to get into a local segment with Derek, and at the end, we're going to do an NFL draft. Probably not in the way that you were thinking of, though. So, boys, playoff rankings came out. 1 Clemson, 2 Oklahoma, 3 Georgia, 4 Alabama. Turned out exactly how we said it would turn out, how we thought it would turn out. Ohio State did beat Wisconsin. However, I picked Wisconsin. Ohio State did beat Wisconsin. That 4 spot was up. And on Friday, we did plead your case, where we all each pled a case for that 4th spot, who deserved to be in that 4th spot. I won the debate, and Alabama actually made it in. Thoughts, initial reactions?
Yeah, I think that was kind of expected. I think Ohio State, if they wanted any chance of getting in, starting out at an 8 being ranked, they had to win that soundly against Wisconsin, and they did well. The game was never really in doubt, but they needed to win by more if they wanted to get into the playoff.
And not only that, you can't lose to Iowa the way they lost to Iowa at the beginning of the season. But I can't say I'm surprised Alabama getting in. I mean, it's Nick Saban. The guy has a monopoly on the NCAA, let's just be honest. But in my opinion, as bad as I hate Alabama, they were arguably the best team in college football, so I'm not surprised they're in.
This is what I would say regarding this whole thing, because we talked about it before the show, that there was so much reaction on social media, on Twitter, Facebook, about how this went down, how Alabama got in with only 1 loss, but not a conference champion. Okay, and there was so much reaction, both in the media, out of the media, everybody, your average Joe, everybody had an opinion on this. And this is where I've ended. The College Football Playoff Committee has no criteria. There is no criteria. No matter what they might say that, oh, we're looking at these things, we're looking at that. I think there is no criteria. And I'm not entirely convinced that that's a bad thing, because every year is different. Every year is different. I remember the first 2 years of this college football playoff experiment committee thing, it was all about conference championships. It was, you're going to pick the best 4 conference champions. That was like the mantra of the college football playoff committee. We're going to pick the best 4 conference champions to be in the playoff. And for the first 2 years, that was the case. They only picked conference champions. Like I said last time, they're like the Supreme Court. Okay, what they do, what they say, it creates law in college football. And the second they let Ohio State in last year, that created this entire law that made it possible for Alabama to get in this time. They don't care about conferences. They have no preference over what conference deserves what. Okay, and I would argue that they really don't care about resumes. I would argue that they only care about what they see when they watch the games.
Yeah, I would agree. That's what I was going to say is the committee has proven that they look at the eye test. Like, they're basing this solely off the eye test. They're not looking at conference champions. My only issue is the media, I guess, portrays it as they make the conference championship seem like that's going to be a big thing. You know, and with that being said, like, the committee just needs to establish exactly a little bit of transparency and tell us what it is that they look for.
Well, I would say that they don't do that because they don't want to talk themselves into a corner. For example, if they say, oh, well, this year we're just looking for a team to go undefeated. Doesn't matter who they play. Whoever has the most wins and the least amount of losses is going to get in. If you say that before the season, then you set yourself up. That's a dangerous thing to say because you have no idea how the season's going to play out. And they've done that over and over again. That's why they always say, oh, yeah, there's not much difference between, the top 8 teams. It's all very close. So that it seems like no matter who gets in there, it's not going to be a big deal. Because they said, oh, it's all very close. And, everyone, I've seen a lot of people, particularly people that work for Fox Sports 1, or who used to work for Fox Sports 1. I'm talking about Danny Kanell and Joel Klatt, to be specific. They are pushing this huge conspiracy theory storyline. That this is all just a big farce, that the committee is lying to the public, that it's all just set up to screw everybody over except for the big name brands. Okay, everything isn't just this huge conspiracy theory put together to screw your teams over. Okay, Joel Klatt played college football in the Pac-12, Danny Kanell in the ACC, and those two are on record as being just people that don't like the SEC, that just hate the SEC and want to see them fail. And that's why they're so worked up about this. The real conspiracy would have been had Ohio State made it in. Because me and Derek talked about this while we were watching the Ohio State-Wisconsin game. You would put Ohio State in to have a larger scale of ratings geographically. Because now we have basically all 4 teams are from the southern portion of the United States. And so had they put Ohio State in, that's your conspiracy. That's, okay, we're putting them in because they're a big brand and then we need the Big Ten eyes on the TVs and everything like that. That's your conspiracy theory. But instead what you get is the actual best 4 teams in the playoffs. That showed to me that the committee's got stones. They got cojones if they're going to do something like that. I mean, they opened themselves up big time for huge public backlash from, like I said, everybody on Twitter and national media. All were ripping them to shreds for that.
But this is the second time they've done this.
I said, it is the Supreme Court. It is creating law.
So Ohio State has no reason to be upset because they were on the other end last season. And I would agree with you. I think the committee has just really showed us that they don't care what we think and what everyone else thinks, but they're just going to pick the 4 teams they think they deserve to be in. And I think that's why before the college football conference championship weekend, you had Alabama sitting at a 5, is because they knew, okay, Alabama's, we think, one of the best 4 teams in the nation, but somebody needs to lose for them to get in, because you couldn't have Wisconsin go undefeated and not be in. So once somebody lost, they were saying, okay, we're putting Alabama in, and I think they had Miami at 7 and Ohio State at 8, saying, like, you need to show us something big or it's going to be Bama.
I mean, there are 3 groups of people that are really upset about this, and it's the minority, I feel like. I feel like most of the people who have any kind of sense in their minds understand that this was the way it needed to go. But there are 3 groups of people who are out of their mind incensed about this whole thing. Okay? Ohio State fans, reasonably, I think, maybe, they applauded this when this happened last year, when they got in over Penn State. They applauded this. Okay? And now with a 1 loss, no conference title, good resume, got in. They applauded that last year. They're all up in arms about it this year. They're one of the groups. Second, the conspiracy theorists. Like I mentioned, the Joel Klatt and the Danny Kanells of the world. People who just think that this whole playoff committee is designed to be this huge money-making grab farce, not a real playoff, not a real win-in-you're-in system. And 3, the people that just want to see the SEC fail, that just have these personal, for whatever reason, vendettas against the SEC. And when people have these biases, it makes it impossible to listen to them with any amount of credibility. I'm going to admit, I'm a huge Florida Gators fan. I am. And in turn, that means I support the SEC and what they do. But I feel like I can at least look past my bias towards the SEC and create an objective opinion about things. Whereas people like Joel Klatt and Danny Kanell are incapable of doing that. And it's really annoying more than anything. It's annoying.
So I think it's 2020 or 2021, they have the option to expand from 4 teams in the playoff to more if they choose. Now, I've always been like on the side of 4 teams. And that's because, like I said last show, this is like a playoff. Conference championship weekend was like a playoff. And you saw like Ohio State played, it was like a playoff. All these teams that were struggling to get in and wanted to get in, they played as if it was their own playoff game. I'm still on the side of having 4 teams, but I've heard when listening to the radio and different things today that there was the option of a 5 team with the 4 team doing a play-in and a 6 team. What do you?
I think the committee, number one, the committee can't make up their mind, so I think without a doubt you have to go to 8 teams at this point. I feel like, at least for me, there were too many good teams left off the board going into the playoffs. Yeah, you have 4 good teams right now, but I feel like there's maybe 4 other teams that could beat those 4 teams that should be in the playoffs. And I feel like if you have 8 teams, you don't have to worry about all this drama. You don't have to worry about this team deserves to get in, that team deserves to get in. You have the top 8 teams, and they play it out.
But we love that.
Yeah, I was going to say, look, part of why this has become so great and that it's dominated, think about yesterday. Yesterday was a pretty big Sunday in the NFL. There were big games with playoff implications. But for 90% of the day, all anybody was talking about was this, right? Over whatever was happening in the NFL, people were talking about Alabama having gotten into the playoff. And that's exactly what the NCAA and the administrators of the college football playoff want to have happen. They want to have all this discussion, all this drama surrounding it, and I like it. I mean, I think once you get to a point where, and I would even say that drama and controversy wouldn't necessarily go away; it would just move down the line. Instead of being around the 3 and 4 spots, it'd be around the 7 and 8 spots. And there's always going to be, you know, people who are going to be all up in arms thinking their team should be in it. You're never going to get rid of that. I think the reason why 4 is so great is because every game you play, everything's on the line, basically. That's why every team in the playoff this year has 1 loss. Here's
my solution to the people that are saying 4 teams does not include enough teams. If you're one of those teams that's trying to get into the playoff, don't lose, and you'll be fine.
That's the simplest. I mean, I would say, for me personally, talking about resumes, for me it ends really at wins and losses. I think if you don't have the same number of wins and losses, then that's it. So as far as Alabama and Ohio State went for me, you can say whatever you want about their schedule. When it got to Alabama's 11-1, Ohio State's 10-2, that's where it netted for me.
Yeah, I don't think you doubt if Ohio State has 1 loss, they're in right now.
Yeah,
and they could have beaten Iowa.
I would agree.
So really, they beat themselves in that aspect. I think the 4 teams is the right way to go. I agree. Once you start hitting 8 teams, 6 teams, people are still going to be left out. You're going to see UCF is going to be, why aren't we one of the 8 teams? And it's always going to be that way. And I think sticking with the 4 makes, you know, conference championship weekend still mean something. Even though Ohio State didn't get in, this weekend meant a lot to a lot of teams that had to win. And I feel like if you don't have that, this weekend kind of becomes not as important.
Oh, I completely agree. I just feel like a team like UCF, let's say, let's have a theory here. UCF goes 12-0 the next 4 or 5 years in a row. I have a feeling with these 4 teams, they will still be left out regardless, even if they're undefeated for the next 4 or 5 years, because teams like Alabama, teams like Ohio State, teams like Clemson, even if they've lost 1 or 2 games, they might have one tough team on their schedule. They're going to get in the playoffs anyway. UCF, they're not a big market school. They're not a big name school, and they haven't played the likes of Florida, or Florida State or anybody like that, but they're going to be left out even if they happen to be 50-0 in the next few years. They're still not going to get in that top 4. That's how I feel. I don't know if that's true. I think that's a possibility.
I think that's true. I think for a group of 5 team, this year it was UCF, for a group of 5 team to make it into the Final Four, a lot needs to happen at the top. Yeah. I think, you got to have a lot of teams competing for the playoff with 2 losses and have an undefeated group of 5 team. The way it played out this year is that there were 4 good teams with 1 loss, and a lot of really good teams with 2 losses as well. And so the door just was never open for UCF. And I don't see a way that it's ever going to be for teams coming up at the group of 5. I just don't. And personally, I'm not too bent about that.
Yeah,
I could care less about seeing Memphis or UCF or anybody else in here. I'm like, okay, I'm all for having like these what do they call it, Cinderella stories in the NCAA tournament where a 10 seed or an 11 seed goes to the Sweet 16. But when it gets to the Elite 8, when it gets to the Final Four, I want to see Duke. I want to see Kentucky. I want to see Gonzaga. I want to see Kansas. I want to see UC. Those are the teams I want to see battling at the end. I could care less about the Cinderella story past a certain point.
I believe in miracles. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I think to a degree, I would say, but it's the same way you feel about any other sport. Eventually we're going to get tired of seeing the same teams. Like, why do you think so many people hate Alabama? So many people hate the Patriots? It's nothing personal. It's just I'm tired of seeing the same team winning every single year.
I think I differ from most people in that sense because I genuinely enjoy seeing what's happening at Alabama happen, where you are able to sustain greatness over such a long period of time.
So do you root for greatness, or are you rooting for Clemson?
I root for greatness in general, and what Clemson's doing is no less impressive. They're just 3 years behind. Yep. You know what I mean? They're on that track. Dabo Swinney, what he's done at Clemson is one of the least talked about things that should be talked about more. I said that horribly, but there is not nearly enough attention around what he's doing there. Sustaining what he's sustaining for the last 3 years, 4 years, really. And I enjoy watching that just as much as I enjoy watching Alabama. That's why I like watching them play. is because you're watching two great, it's like Celtics Lakers. It's like two great franchises that have been able to sustain such a high level of play, recruiting, coaching. I mean, these are coaching staffs that are constantly getting pillaged for head coaching jobs and whatnot, you know, and they're able to reload every year with no drop off. That's amazing to me.
Yeah, and I have massive respect for those teams. It is nice to see, Georgia's in this year, and they're good. I like seeing that, you know, and you can't tell me when you're watching March Madness when number 3 Duke is losing to number 14 seed Mercer.
I love it. That's what I mean. I love it. Like, I love it in the first couple of rounds, but I don't want to see Mercer in the Elite Eight.
Yeah,
you know, it's just like
I agree.
I could care less about that.
I wouldn't want a team like that in the college football playoff either. But it is nice to have a little. It's nice to have Bama at a 4, honestly, instead of a 1. That's changed enough right now. I'll take it.
Would you guys agree that Bama is an underdog going into this playoff? Because I've heard a few people say that today, that Alabama looks like the underdog.
Well, Alabama is ranked in either 1 or 2 in ESPN's Football Power Index. And I believe my uncle, who isn't necessarily the most reliable source, but he told me that, you know, on a neutral field right now, Alabama would be favored against anybody. I haven't seen the opening lines, Vegas lines yet, but it's hard for me to say that they're the underdog.
It'd be hard to bet against Alabama.
It would be.
It depends on how healthy they can get, I think. And they've got a month off. You know?
A month with Nick Saban, a month with Dabo Swinney. It's going to be good.
It depends on how healthy they can get on defense, I'd say.
Yeah.
Their linebacking core has just been decimated throughout the year. They've been dealing with, I don't know who, Mika Fitzpatrick has been dealing with that hamstring for the last couple weeks. And Jalen Hurts, I thought, has played well. They've used him more as a runner. They've used him more as a runner this year than I think I would have liked to have seen, but it's hard for me to say that they're the underdog. I'm excited to see what happens against Clemson. I mean, that's going to be, if it's anything like the first 2 times they played, I think it's going to be a fantastic game. So this is the Sports Room, the sports show that actually does talk about sports. I'm going to turn the floor over to Derek, who wants to do a little local minute here. We are coming to you today. We are broadcasting. We are recording from Draper, Utah, in western United States. And so there's not a whole lot going on the local scene here, but Derek did feel like you want to take a local minute, so I'm going to turn the floor over to you, Derek, for a local minute.
Thanks, Bub. We'll start with Gordon who?
Haystacks?
Gordon Haystacks. We have Donovan Mitchell, who put up 41 against the Pelicans this week. Among active players to score 40, LeBron James as a rookie, active players to score 40 as a rookie. LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, Kevin Durant. Blake Griffin did it twice, Steph Curry, and Eric Gordon. So Donovan Mitchell's in good company. The Jazz are riding a 5-game win streak. During this 5 games, Donovan Mitchell actually is averaging 21 points a game in his 31 minutes that he's playing, and he's shooting 47.5% from the three-point line.
I get all the hype around Ben Simmons. I think he's going to be an excellent player in the league. I think he's going to be an all-star. It's his second year, technically, having dealt with the injury the first year. Nobody in the league, no rookie especially, has had to deal with the load that Donovan Mitchell has had to carry for the Jazz this year. I mean, Ben Simmons has Embiid, who is the best player on that team. You know, Donovan Mitchell has taken the scoring load, especially in the last, I'd say, 3 weeks of the season. He has taken completely the scoring load as a rookie. No other rookie in the league is doing that.
The best part about his 41-point performance is they're going to shoot a technical free throw, and Alec Burks goes up to the line. And coach tells Donovan Mitchell to go take it, and so he taps Alec Burks on the shoulder and says, "I got this one." That just shows, I think, Donovan Mitchell is carrying a heavy load for the Jazz, and I think it's a good thing. You know, he's not riding the pine and watching it from afar. He's in the action right now, and he's doing really well.
Super mega athlete. Jump out the gym. Good defender. Really good on his feet. Range. Ability to get to the rim. Finishing. I mean, he's got everything that you want. A little undersized for a shooting guard or a small forward, obviously, but he has everything that you want in a guard in this league.
And throughout this 5-game win streak, keep in mind, while Rudy Gobert has been out, Derek Favors in this 5-game win streak is averaging 18.6 points a game and 9 rebounds, and he's shooting really well from the field. How do you think that's going to change when Gobert comes back? Because the people are saying that Derek Favors he plays better at a 5, but when Gobert's in, he's a 4.
Trade him.
No way.
Trade him.
No way.
I've been on this train for 2 years.
Get off of it.
Trade him. Trade him. He is.
Listen, Biggen over here, not even a Jazz fan.
Listen.
Unbiased, telling you not to trade him.
Hear me out. We can get to the playoffs with Derek Favors. We can get to the playoffs with Derek Favors and Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
If that's your expectation, then all right. If that's all we're looking for, then okay, you can keep him. We'll make the playoffs for the next, I don't know how long. But if we want to win something, if we want to make it to the finals, if we want to have a shot at beating the Warriors, someone who plays the 4 is going to need to be a lot more versatile offensively and defensively than he is.
But who are you going to get?
Derek Favors
I don't know who
he's
should
a great
be.
defender.
I don't know, but can he guard Kevin Durant? That's what it's going to come down to.
No, he can't guard Kevin Durant.
Nobody can guard Kevin Durant, but you have to have somebody in there that can compete on both ends of the floor against the Warriors, or it's never going to happen. So if your expectation is to get to the playoffs, then sure, let's hold on to Derek Favors.
So this
But
is
if you
what
want to
hurt.
win something, you have to upgrade at that position.
Or you got to integrate him in the offense more. Because when Gobert's on the floor, he doesn't do as much as he does when he's hurt. Now, if you can get him to play the way he's playing with the 18 points a game right now, with Gobert in the lineup, plus Donovan Mitchell, I think you make a case for the Jazz being a better team. But when you take that offense away from Derek Favors and expect him to go 8 and 10, 10 and 10, he's not going to do as much.
Let me ask you this: who would you want? Keep in mind, Kevin Durant is taken and LeBron James is taken, and you're asking for somebody that can play a 4 and guard the 2 best offensive players in the league.
Listen, there are a lot of people. We're
not getting Kawhi.
Nobody can shut any of those guys down.
Right.
You can't shut Kevin Durant down. You can't shut LeBron down. You can't shut Kawhi down. We get it. What you have to have is someone who can at least hold their own in the discussion. Not like a superstar. I personally think someone like Otto Porter Jr. is
We could have had him if it wasn't for Betrayward.
He's long, athletic. Okay, he can get around on the floor. He could play a 4. When Kevin Durant's playing the 4, he could play the 4 and match up. He can't shut him down, but he is serviceable and is athletic enough to hang with him. And he's not a great scorer, but he can shoot the ball. Someone like that, and that's not too much of an ask, I don't think, to acquire someone like him. Someone long, athletic that can move around on the floor. Derek Favors looks like a tree stump out there.
If you trade Derek Favors and you're the Jazz, you're going to regret it.
Mm-hmm.
You might regret it immediately. Like this season, you might regret it. Long run, I don't think so. Because if you want to compete with the way that the NBA is played today, with the positionless basketball, basically, you can't have someone like him on the floor.
If Derek Favors gets hurt this year and it sidelines him for a good portion of the season, then I would consider trading him because of his injury history. But until that happens this year, where he's at right now, if he can stay healthy, you do not trade Derek Favors.
Well, you're wrong.
Agree to disagree. The Jazz also have the Wizards tonight, and then they play at OKC. Then they got Houston, number 1 in the West right now, and then at Milwaukee. So it's a tough schedule. We have the toughest schedule for December among all NBA teams currently. Outside of the Jazz, we have a couple NFL prospects from Utah, or not prospects, but former players in Utah in college. Alex Smith had a big day at 19 for 33 with 366 yards and 4 touchdowns. He also had 1 carry, which we watched, for 70 yards. Yeah, you heard that right, for 70 yards. But what is also important is they lost to the Jets.
When was the last time you saw a white quarterback in the NFL run 70 yards?
Tim Tebow, and he didn't even run 70 yards.
I was going to say, I don't know that he ever had a 70-yard run.
70, but it was good.
Has it ever happened?
I don't know. That'd be a good stat to look up.
Since, I don't know, Jim Plunkett.
Alex Smith looked like his ankles hurt when he was running. I'm not going to lie. It looked kind of painful for him.
He looked tired at the end of that run. He just backed his way out of bounds.
Chiefs are in trouble.
Chiefs
They're
are in
free
trouble.
fall.
6
they
and
started
6.
5-0, now they're 6-6.
Outside of that, Jamal Williams for the Packers had 21 carries, 113 yards, and 1 touchdown. So our boy. And
J-Swag Daddy.
do you see him after the post-game interview? Do you see that?
He's
repping his BYU jacket. Our boy.
And I saw a video. This makes me happy. When he was at BYU, his senior year, I did sports marketing for the athletic program, and I would always show up to the football games early and helped kind of set up banners and whatnot. And before every game, he would grab a ball and he'd go out and he'd play catch with people that were in the stands. Like he'd go find a kid, he'd throw the ball up there, the kid would throw it back. And I saw a video on Twitter yesterday of him doing that at Lambeau. And that just shows you, I think he's from all accounts, a super hard worker, but I think he's humble and down to earth, and I think he's going to be a good player. He's a Jordan Howard, I think, type of player. So someone to keep your eye on there.
Last thing, probably the most important thing that happened from a local view. Taysom Hill coming up with a big tackle on special teams.
I think he made 2 tackles. Is that right?
Yeah.
2 tackles on special teams, looking like a linebacker out there. Made Sean Payton smile.
It was funny because he was like wearing gloves and stuff. I don't know. It's just like it's
He
weird
was
to see
so
him dressed up
pumped.
like that.
Watching
Yeah,
him
he
run to
was.
the sideline, all pumped about that, and Sean Payton just smiling, give me the feels.
That it? All right, that's a local minute with Derek Crystal. Thank you, Derek, for that. Obviously, we want to appeal to a national audience, but it's nice to get to squeeze some local stuff in there. And the Jazz, they're on a nice 5-game
5-game win streak. 5-game.
making some noise. They'll probably make the playoffs, I think, this year.
Donovan
Again?
Mitchell, Rookie of the year, I'm telling you.
We were the 5 seed last year.
Mm-hmm.
With Gordon Hayward, I think we'll probably be in the 5 to 7 range this year.
I would say my guess would be 6 to 8. We got a tough schedule. December. We'll probably go through some losing streaks on the way, but
All right, that is the local minute with Derek Crystal. We'll look forward to more of those in the future. This is the Sports Room Show, the sports show that actually and indeed does talk about sports. Last segment of the day, we're going to do a little NFL draft. Okay, and this isn't what you're thinking probably. Has nothing to do with fantasy football. What we want to do right now is me and Derek and Darius are going to do we're going to draft teams. We're each going to draft 4 because obviously there's only 12 teams that make the playoffs in the entire league. So we're each going to draft 4, totaling 12 teams that we are picking to win the Super Bowl. And we need to think of like a prize. This is just now occurring to me. We need to think of an incentive to win. It either can be we do something for the winner or the 2 losers have to do a punishment.
side note, Bubba's going to have to wear a dress. He went 1-4 in the college
I went 1-4
football.
my picks. That was despicable.
I went 3-2, and Darius.
I suck at picking. I'm not going to lie. I suck at picking. Because I always am looking to make like the splash pick. And I have to
you chose
break
TCU,
that.
and we told you not to choose
suck at
TCU.
picking.
I told you. Drake told you.
Yeah,
I told you. But I also told you that I wasn't going to lose, and I went 5-0.
I'm the best there is, plain and simple.
Plain and simple.
You have the right. You've got the right. You've got the rights to that right now. Yeah, I had a bad. So sometime in the future, maybe on Friday, I will be wearing a dress for the show. Man of my word. Anyway, but we need to getting back on track. NFL draft. We're each going to draft a team. 4 teams that we think are going to win the Super Bowl. Punishment/reward to come.
Ruth's
I think.
Chris, yeah? No,
Yeah, I'd
dinner?
like a nice
Dinner?
24-ounce porterhouse on these guys. Thank you so much. Okay, all right. Well, punishment and or reward to come. TBD.
TBD.
All right, so this is how it's going to go. Who gets the first overall pick?
Well, I mean, we could do where Darius went 5-0.
Okay,
He gets
all
the first
right.
pick. I went
And then
3-2.
so I'm
Second
third?
pick, you get
Okay.
third pick. Are we doing snake draft? Or we just doing
So we'll just go in a circle.
circle? Okay.
So yeah. Well, should we do snake?
No.
You just want me to lose?
Yeah. No.
All right. Darius, first overall pick in the 2017 Sports Room draft is
I'm going to say the Seattle Seahawks.
for the
Wow.
first overall pick.
That's my first overall pick, dark horse.
The sleeper.
Explain yourself.
I'm going to explain myself like this. Russell Wilson is looking like the baddest man on the planet right now. And in my opinion, he's looked like that the past 3 or 4 years. It's just gone under the radar. This dude can thread the needle. He has a gunslinging arm. I mean, he could probably throw it out of this atmosphere if he really tried. I think if he genuinely tried, he could. And he's very accurate. And not to mention, the dude is not as fast, but he has Michael Vick-like elusiveness. You're not going to get this dude down. He got sacked twice last night, but they almost didn't happen. And then, not to mention his defense. Yeah, you're down a few members of the Legion of Boom. You're down Richard Sherman. You're down Big Cam Chancellor. But Bobby Wagner is the best middle linebacker in the NFL right now. And that defensive line for the Seattle Seahawks, they get pressure, they stop the run. And I love the acquisition of Dwayne Brown at left tackle. I love it. He's protecting Russell Wilson's blind side. And then you got Jimmy Beans playing tight end, the light-skinned assassins.
You writing these down?
So,
Yeah.
going with
First overall pick for Biggen, the Seattle Seahawks. Derek?
Well, I did not expect
I
this.
didn't either.
But
I was planning this out in my mind, and that's not
I
how
did not expect this. But I have to go. Do you have that clip, the 40 clip?
Yeah, I got you.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
Tom Brady. How do you go against, excuse me, how do you go against Tom Brady?
Can't do it.
I'm taking the Pats.
Can't mess with Tom.
They're what, 10-2, 11-2? 10-2. Yeah,
They're 10-2. Yeah.
They're 10-2.
Miami this week.
Tom Brady's out to prove that he's the greatest quarterback of all time. I will admit the Seahawks I was going for them second pick because they're 8-4, they're coming up. But yeah, I'm going with the Pats.
So second overall pick for Derek and his first round pick is the New England Patriots, probably the direction I would have gone. Now I have a dilemma here. It's either going to be the Steelers or the Eagles. I'm going to go with the Steelers. And the reason I say that is because this happens every once in a while in sports where you have a team that's young or is led by youth, which is what the Eagles are right now. They're led by a really young, good but young quarterback. And usually what it takes is to lose before you learn how to win. And I think the Eagles, they're going to make the playoffs. I don't know how far they'll go, maybe the NFC Championship, but they're going to lose. And Carson Wentz is going to learn from that and is going to use that to propel him to success in the future. But usually for youth, you have to learn to lose before you learn to win. And I think that's going to happen with the Eagles this year, so I'm going to go with the Steelers. Veterans all across the board, Le'Veon Bell, Big Ben, Antonio Brown, Mike Tomlin's a Super Bowl winning coach. Healthy on defense, I think they finally got things figured out. They're going to have to go through New England at some point, but I'm going to take my first pick will be the Steelers. All right, back around.
Are you allowed to choose the same team as somebody or no?
No.
No. Okay, because
Once a team's picked, they're off the board.
that was my second pick.
So Seahawks, Patriots, Steelers off the board.
You know, I was going to save this for my third pick, but I'm going to move them to my second pick, and I'm going to take the Philadelphia Eagles.
You play to win the game.
And I played that clip simply for the fact that Carson Wentz knows how to win. Now, has he done it on the NFL level yet? No. They didn't do as good as maybe they wanted to in his first season. But this year they look primed to get to the Super Bowl. And I say he has experience in winning because the dude has 4 national championships as the quarterback at North Dakota State. 4. Now, don't get me wrong. College and the NFL are 2 different levels of playing. I get it. College, it's tough, it's fast, it's physical, whatever it may be. But the NFL, that's gladiator type. That's a gladiator sport. But I think that the Eagles are primed to get there, and I think Carson Wentz, with his winning background, I think he can translate that well to the playoffs this year. And that defense for the Eagles, they're fast, they're ferocious, and they play out of their minds. So I'm going with the Eagles.
All right, Biggen goes to the Eagles. DC, your next pick.
Well, this is where it gets tough. I really don't want to do what I'm about to do. But I'm going to take the Ravens. And the reason I'm taking the Ravens is because I'm looking at my options.
This is not going the way I thought it would, by the way.
I'm looking at my options.
I'm serious.
And I'm thinking, okay, the Vikings aren't going to win it. I don't think. It's hard to spoil your picks, whatever you're doing. I don't think the Rams are going to win it. I don't think the Saints are going to win it. I don't think the Panthers are going to win it. And the rest of the teams are fighting for a playoff spot. And I don't trust my Titans quite yet. And I know
Please
you
don't
hate.
say it's
I
your
know you
team.
hate. That's why I said it. My Titans.
That's one of the biggest pet peeves. Like, yeah, gotta watch my Niners.
You know I said that out of spite.
That's one of my biggest pet peeves ever.
I said that out of spite. I know Bubba hates that. But I'm going to take the Ravens. They look hot right now. If Joe Flacco's on, they got a good defense. Take the Ravens.
All right, there goes to the Ravens. For my next pick, guys, you just listed this and your teams that aren't going to win it. And I can't believe this. I can't believe that. I'm taking the Saints. And let me give you two reasons, big reasons why. You have a Super Bowl winning quarterback already, Drew Brees, walking into the Hall of Fame. And you have, finally, a run game in New Orleans. You've got 2 really good running backs. And a running game travels. That means you can go on the road and run the ball the same as you run it at home. And they're going to be able to run the ball on pretty much anybody, I think. And they have the experience with Drew Brees. The defense is probably the question mark, but they've been good this year. The defense has played good. They held Carolina, I believe, this week to 21. And so I don't see a reason why the Saints shouldn't be looked at as serious Super Bowl contenders. I know the record, they're 9-3. You know, it's not, and the leaders in both conferences are at 10-2. And so the Saints are as good as there is, I believe, in this league. As far as running game, defense is young, but talented and aggressive. I think they have as good a shot as anybody. So I'm taking the Saints with my second pick.
All right, back to you, Darius.
Back around, Biggen.
My third pick, and you guys know I talk about defense all the time, and I'm going with this pick for that reason. Taking the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're 8-4 right now. I know to a lot of people that might seem like a stretch, but this defense is on pace to pass the 2000 Ravens and the 85 Bears. And I think when you have a defense like that going into the playoffs, yes, Blake Bortles is not the ideal quarterback to get you a Super Bowl, but Leonard Fournette is a solid running back in the backfield, and that defense is going to get you through. We saw the Ravens, was it Trent Dilfer? He was awful. Okay, didn't do anything for the Ravens that season. I believe in the Super Bowl threw 3 interceptions, but that defense and Ray Lewis, they won that game. So I'm going with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
All right.
DC.
I'm gonna go with the Vikings. I don't trust them, but they haven't proven me wrong.
We're in the latter half of this
Do we only
thing.
get 4 picks?
4 picks, so this is the third round.
4 picks and like a wild card pick, maybe? 5 picks?
No, dude, 4 picks.
4. It's like the playoffs.
All right.
These are not malleable rules. The rules are what they are. You have 4 picks.
Okay.
I'll give you one chance to change it right now. 5, 4,
No, I'll
3.
stick with the Vikings. I don't have any reason to pick the Vikings, but I'm sticking with them.
So what you're trying to tell me right now is that you believe that Case Keenum is going to win a Super Bowl as a starting quarterback.
What I said in my last thing was that I don't think they will, but they keep winning. So all that you got to do is just keep winning. Maybe you'll win enough.
All right, my third pick, I'm going with the Chiefs. I mean, we talked about it a little bit before in the local minute that the Chiefs have kind of been in free fall here. And I think that's attributable to a lot of things. Alex Smith is not one of them, I don't think. He's played pretty good. They haven't been able to get the run game going as much as they have. At the beginning of the year, Kareem Hunt was a shoo-in for Rookie of the Year, has fallen off the face of the earth. I mean, if anybody sees him, please alert your local authorities so that we can all know that he's safe and well, because he has not showed up at all. Defense has been banged up. Justin Houston has been trying to do it by himself. D Ford has been in and out of the lineup. They brought on Darrelle Revis, but I don't know how much of a help he's going to do. Marcus Peters is a basket case. It seems like they're really missing Eric Berry, but I think once they get a little healthier on defense, offense will get back on track. They're still a good team, I believe. They're still a dangerous team. They got a great coach. I don't necessarily think that Alex Smith is an elite Super Bowl winning quarterback, but I think that of the teams remaining, I think they have the best shot. Biggen?
And my last pick, I just can't bet against him. I'm going with Killer Cam and the Carolina Panthers. I say that because you have an MVP at quarterback. I really think the only reason he doesn't have a Super Bowl is because of a guy named Von Miller. That's the only reason Cam is championshipless. And that defense, they play well in spurts, and that's the only scary part is, sometimes Luke Kuechly is on, other times he disappears. Sometimes Thomas Davis is the best linebacker in the game, then he's a 2-tackle guy. And, the defensive line, I think they're consistent. You have the leadership of Julius Peppers out there, who's a seasoned veteran. He's also been to 2 Super Bowls. Hasn't won one yet, but he's been to 2. And he's one of the top pass rushers right now at 36 years old. And then, not to mention Starlo Tulele, and then you have those other guys on the defensive front. I think Carolina Panthers are a scary team in the playoffs because they're underrated. Nobody's really taking them serious right now.
All right. So Darius's last pick, is the Panthers. Derek, your last pick?
My last pick is the Dallas Cowboys.
I broke my back.
Spinal. I'm taking the Cowboys. Broke back. Is that the connection here? Broke back Cowboys. I'm taking the Dallas Cowboys. I think when Zeke gets back, they can be a really dangerous team, and I think they're a team that can make a deep run.
So you're going with the Cowboys. Okay.
Well, none of this matters because the Patriots are going to win. So my picks are all doesn't really matter. No, I hope they don't win.
What if Miami this week Brady goes down? ACL. Knock on wood. I hope it doesn't happen. But.
Spinal.
All right, for my last pick, let's see. I want to take the Falcons, but I don't think they're going to get in. I think they're a good team, but right now ahead of them, the Saints winning the division 9-3, and then the Panthers and the Seahawks. I mean, I don't think there's any way that they can get in there. So, before we did this, I told myself I wouldn't do this, but I'll go with the Rams. And I can't explain it because the reason
here's
why
you giving me a hard time about Case Keenum, and you come up with a Jared Goff pick.
Okay, well, if you gave me a pick between the two, I'm taking Jared Goff.
I picked up Jared Goff in fantasy. He's killing it.
If I needed to win a game tomorrow, I would take Jared Goff over Case Keenum. However, I'm kind of paradoxical here because the reason I didn't take the Eagles is because young teams have to learn how to lose before they learn how to win. And if anything, the Rams are a younger team. But it's fourth round, and I felt like that was good value with my last pick. You know, a team that's kind of been up and down, I think, the last couple weeks, but what? You want 5 picks?
Let's do 5 picks.
No.
Why?
Because only 12 teams make the playoffs.
So?
I feel like that matters. Or am I crazy?
No, it matters.
Just a wee bit.
We're not doing 5 teams. Why?
You just can't leave the Titans on the board.
I'm leaving the Titans on the board.
Can I trade a pick?
Like swap one out?
Yeah.
What do you say?
I feel
Biggen?
bad looking at my favorite teams just chilling on the board, and they're 8-4 right now.
So you're gonna let your bias creep into this thing.
My bias is creeping right in behind Tom Brady.
Well, yeah, okay.
No, it's fine. Whatever.
You're sticking with it?
Well, I don't want to, but you guys are.
I don't know. What do you
I
say?
plead the fifth.
The 5th team? We're taking 5 teams? No, it's fine. I'll stick with the Vikings. But if the Titans win, I'm going to feel pretty miserable.
I feel like I would say with some degree of confidence the Titans are not going to win the Super Bowl.
Hey.
So I think you're okay. All right. This has been the Sports Room show, the show that actually the sports show that actually talks about sports. One day I'm going to get that right. The sports show that actually talks about sports. Thank you so much for joining us. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Links to those will be in the description.
People are already texting us.
Links to those will be in the description. You can send us emails at thesportsroomtalkshow@gmail.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. New shows every Monday and Friday. That meaning we'll see you on Friday. I'll be wearing a dress.
Deuces.